everybody on here and cutting this month's video. I got my glasses on this morning just because it's not quite totally light out here, as you can see, but it's going to get there soon enough. It's in the process, you know, as they say, by dawn's early light. I have my little light to work with here and some notes, of course, but you know, I'm looking forward to the day. You know, it's bright and early here, but we get a lot of tourists and people around here all times of the day, so it's getting harder and harder to film outside. So I got up super early just to get this done this morning. Anyways, this month I really want to talk about some aspects that are connected to self-care and something that we're tending to do in these days, something that is tending to happen a lot. And that has to do with letting go of our self-care, right? The more we tend to get into these spaces where we get desperate about things in life, we get stressed about things in life, and as a result of that, we tend to let go of our health and our own well-being, or we tend to be over-sacrificing for other people because, as we know, everybody has a lot of needs these days, it seems like. Everybody has their things that they've got to deal with, things that they need to get done, all of that. So with that increase of needs, what comes along with that is we tend to push ourselves too hard. And that's one of the key points. So this is coming up in our codes for August 2024. It's going to be a big feature, and we're going in and out of this a lot. So I figured, oh, you know, it's probably pretty good to do a brush up on this and to touch on some important points about personal care, right? Because again, we have even biblical things, we have a variety of things that just say, no, you've got to sacrifice your whole self until you collapse and fall apart. Well, that doesn't really serve us to do that. And it doesn't serve other people to do that. And it doesn't serve God to do that. So we have to find that balancing point in there. But what happens these days that I see a lot, and I'm guilty of it too, is, you know, we get wrapped up in our work, we're doing our things, whether we're self-employed, whether we're working for somebody else, and we just simply push too hard. And when we're pushing too hard, what we really need to do, and we're in that space, if you catch yourself in that space, what you're really wanting to do is to start moving towards balance. And, you know, when I say this, I mean, it means to start balancing things. And I've noticed this where I've been doing vehicle life this summer, and it's really been, you know, it's been interesting because I've been forced to take breaks at certain times of day because I might be able to only be someplace for so long, and then I've got to shift and I've got to move, or the temperatures are too hot or the temperatures are too cold. So there's always this adapting. So it oftentimes has led me to take some breaks, like in the middle of the day or things like that I wouldn't normally be doing. But that is providing this really beautiful balance in my life that is creating some, I think, some great results. Because in vehicle life, you don't always get a lot of hours of sleep. So when you get those breaks, for example, in the middle of the day, and you actually sit down and actually take the time to eat your lunch without working, which I am so guilty of for so long, you know, or just to stop and rest for a little bit. It makes a difference just to pull your eyes and allow them something different to look at. You know, for me, it's trees, it's greens, it's browns. And fortunately, Maine has a whole lot of that around where I am. So I feel really blessed about that. But that moving into balance is going to be a really important thing. And it always is when we're talking about self-care and pushing too hard. We also want to honor our physical needs because remember, our body is our temple, right? I mean, it houses our soul. It houses, you know, divine presence. It houses our God's energy. And that's really important. If we don't take care of the body, we have no place for that to reside. Our soul self cannot do the work it's here to do. God cannot move through us if our body is not functioning well. So if we're not taking the time to honor the body as the temple, then we are also not honoring God. You could actually go to that point of saying we're not honoring God. We're not honoring divine source in that, aspect. So it's very important that we do honor what our body needs, whether that is strong nutrition, whether that is extra rest, whether that is just taking a break and relaxing for a little bit. Those are all important things that are very, very, that we want to stay conscious of. And then we want to also look at some of these periods that are connected to health, that are connected to those types of things that are going on, are definitely, and I'm just going to turn off my flashlight light because it's getting bright enough that I can actually read without it. So we then actually want to take a look and say, well, sometimes we just need to, these stagnant periods, people get worried about the stagnant periods. Well, those stagnant periods are such a beautiful opportunity to connect with the processes that we're going through the messages that, per se, God is giving us. And it's not light enough for me to get my glasses off yet. And it's, so when we get these spaces where we need to honor things for our body, this is actually a preparation space. So again, if we are honoring our body, part of what we're doing is preparing for the next step, the next phase in life, the next chapter that we're moving into, which actually is more soul-based. And the soul, it doesn't have any desire to run 24/7. I mean, even though it probably, could, that God's energy moving through us, we could, but we're not necessarily meant to do that. That's not what life is all about, because God is found in these balance points. And if we're not taking the time to balance, we're missing God in what we're doing. So that's a very, I think, interesting piece for us to consider. Divine source, if that's your term to use instead of God. But, then we're missing that point. So some of these periods, we want to take a look at them and say, okay, well, what can I do to just prepare to move more into that soul self? I can take that downtime. I can stop and look at the river. I can do some more observation. I can process the things that I'm dealing with that I have going on. And this, again, is about a transition, so we want to embrace the transitions that are going on. So again, a lot of times our body wears down because it's calling us to embrace the transition. It's calling for us to actually take a little bit of a break. And I'm just going to move my camera over a little bit here. Take a little bit of a break and to just really stop and take that breath and to really take a look at what is the transition that I'm going through. I know that I'm going through amazing transitions. I may not understand everything that's involved. I don't even have to know every piece of the transition that I'm going through, but it is going to be truly, truly amazing as I go through it. So as a result of that, I just want to embrace it, whatever it is, whatever parts of it I can embrace. Just the fact that it's a transition, just embrace the energy of transition will be powerful. Now, a lot of things that come up, I want to talk about some different points that are coming up, particularly in the August 2024 codes that connect in with this topic and with this area, and things that are points for us to pay attention to, things that we want to look at or to do. Money worries, for example, may be coming up in this upcoming month, and that leads us to compromise our health, but it also costs us more when we do that. So that's one of those things like, well, if I just take that 20 hours of overtime, I could pay this bill off. And it's always kind of weighing that out, right? Like, okay, it's just 20 hours, it's just 1 week, we think about that. But we also have to check in and say, well, what are we going to do to balance that extra work? What are we going to do to honor that? Because sometimes we're thinking, well, I can't afford to take a day off, right? I can't afford to take that personal day because I can't afford to lose that money. I can't afford to lose a day's worth of pay, for example. But a lot of times that can end up costing us more in the long run, because then we end up pushing too hard. We go for the money, which never works out in our favor, because then we're not taking care of the temple, which means we're then not honoring God or divine source moving through us and through our life. And then we end up sick, and then we end up being out 3 days or a week or 2 weeks, depending on, who you are and what you deal with physically in your body. And if you're thinking you can't take a day off, stop and think, can I take 3 or 5 or 2 weeks off? Because if you don't honor it and you push that threshold, that's probably what you're actually looking at. So sometimes even a half a day, maybe you can find your balance point and say, well, you know, what if I go in and work the morning and then I take the afternoon off and I get some extra rest? Or, you know, I go in a little bit later so I can sleep a little bit later and just catch up on some sleep and I'll bump my shift back. Or find your adjustments, okay? Because the money is never going to be worth it and you'll end up losing more money in the long run. We have also an opportunity in August 2024 to take a break between the busier periods, or to see this as that. You know, a lot of times we feel like maybe we're being pushed out. We feel a little bit lost. That's another thing that comes up that impacts our health, our finances. You know, it's kind of both areas that are being affected right now. And they go hand in hand. Health and finances, when we look at codes, actually go hand in hand, which is an interesting piece. Because they're physical things. They're material world things in many ways, even though they've got the spiritual processes also connected to them. But use your down periods, use your stagnant periods, your periods where you feel rejected, where you're in transition. Use them as an opportunity, again, to take a break, to restore yourself. This is really important. And look at it and say, look, it's going to be busy again soon enough. So just honor the break. And I find a lot of people who are not honoring the breaks, who have trouble being still, they're also struggling. They're not getting a full connection with divine source or God. And that's not something that we think about a lot. And I know that, you know, I've had those challenges in the past myself. It's like, just stay busy, just keep going, just do this, do that, for whatever reason it was, right? But those are our times to honor our conversations with God. And oftentimes there's an issue there that we are avoiding or not dealing with. And part of getting that down period is to specifically deal with that issue, to face something that maybe we don't want to or don't like to face. And stillness represents facing things. So I say never be afraid to face things, you know, honor the stillness, because the sooner we honor that stillness, the sooner we get on and we can transition through and move forward. And sometimes we just need to enjoy that transition. We just need to, you know, I myself have come to a point, I love the transitions in a way. I love having the break. It's like this time of year, summer, where I get to get outside more and I get to do more, and I get a break between the writing periods. And I absolutely love it. I get to get out in these beautiful natural spaces like this, which is amazing. We need to learn how to create more freedom. In this aspect of taking care of ourselves, and particularly in this upcoming month, we want to learn how to create more freedom, more enjoyment and appreciation for basic daily things. Okay? This comes down to simplifying things. This comes down to think about all the things that you never think about in a day, right? You don't think about the basics, like even brushing your teeth, or even, you know, your spouse or your partner, if you've got a spouse or a partner, and all of the little things that they do, or the fact they're there. We just go through our days like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to wake up, they're going to be there, I'm going to do this. We have our routines, right? And we call these things mundane things because we do them without thinking about them. Well, if we take the time to stop and actually think about them a little bit, stop and think about the magnificence of these basic things, you know, the magnificence of your teeth, for example, the magnificence of, you know, how the sun comes and goes, how the light shifts in such a short period of time, right? It's a very short period of time, and look at how much the light has shifted here since I started the video. It's amazing the way nature works. And, you know, as the light comes up, all the birds know, oh, it's time to start singing, you know, when it hits the dawn, but they don't sing during the nighttime usually. We have one or two birds here that are night birds. But, for the most part, they know, okay, and all these natural rhythms, these are all God's rhythms. These are all the rhythms of divine source. This is all that timing that says, okay, when this happens, you do this, and nature just naturally knows. If we take the time and look at the magnificence of these things, we can find it. And this is part of why you see as people grow more and more on their spiritual processes, they want less and less. Because even the simple things have so much to them, and they're able to see how much is in the simple things, and they really don't need more. When we simplify things, we're also going to improve our health. We're actually also going to improve our finances and generate more abundance, because we don't have so much in our life that is weighing us down on a physical, material level, which means that we can actually soar. We can actually be more in the abundant self. We can actually explore more. We can actually have more adventures in life. We can be more fulfilled in many ways. And as we simplify things, and the more our world gets complicated, the more that we have all of this detail in our world, and rules upon rules upon rules upon rules, which we see in our government structures and things like that, the more we simplify. Divinity, God, divine source, it's simple. It's got a lot of layers to it, and it's got a lot of incredible pieces behind that simplicity, but it's simple. And it doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be status-based. It doesn't have to be, those sorts of things. So taking the time, and I encourage you to do that, when we stop and enjoy the most simple, basic routine things, we're actually going to strengthen and build our bodies. There's a different way that the mind actually physically works, the way it processes things, the way it's like clearing the cache in a way on your computer. Things like that. When we take the time to make these stops, and we actually we physically restore the body when we are taking that time to enjoy things. So when I take the time and I really look at wow, how incredible this is that I'm standing in this field with this row of plants that is designed to promote the bees and the butterflies, and all of these trees that have been here for God knows how long, growing and surrounding me with everything that they have that's involved, and how they started in their whole life and their whole process. I mean, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and I can breathe that in, and I can really look at that magnificence that is surrounding me. And when I do that, so many other things become, in a way, unimportant. I don't want to devalue them, but I start to realize how incredible these things are, and they don't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything for me to be standing here really right now. Okay, maybe the gas to get here, but I mean, it really doesn't cost me anything to stop and look at this magnificence. You can do it in your own backyard. Even if you're in a city, it can be a plant, it can be a tree, it can be just even the sky, the sunrise, the sunset. I mean, there's so many aspects of it. Even the city itself can be magnificent. I mean, I talk about nature a lot because that's easy for me to talk about, and that's what I connect with. But even the aspects of the city can be pretty incredible, along the way. So it's just about embracing the magnificence of what you have, the magnificence of the simple things, the daily things, the way your body even functions is an option for that. So when we get down to this appreciation and we start to simplify things, we also want to look at prioritizing what's truly important. Why does this play into our health? I mean, because if we don't prioritize things, we create more stress on ourselves. When we create more stress on ourselves, our body breaks down, it has more issues to deal with. So if we prioritize things and we place things of true value as our priority, then we create this fulfillment. We, again, open that flow of energy for God to move through us, for divine source to be in us, to let our bodies be the temple. And when that happens, that stimulates naturally the healing processes in our body. That stimulates a lot of different aspects, because again, we're coming into the fulfillment, so we're not emotionally drained, we're not mentally drained. When we're emotionally filled, fulfilled, mentally fulfilled, because we're placing our priority on valuable experiences, then we're also not going to overwork. We're going to be able to hold the balance better in our life, and that is going to make a big difference for us in there. And we're not going to overdo it. Because if we're prioritizing, for example, family, or some people prioritize church, or whatever it is, if we prioritize our rest time at the end of the day before we go to bed and wind down and don't just shut off the computer and jump into bed, these sorts of things, then we start to create a natural balance. We won't tend to overwork because we'll say, you know what, I would love to stay and work that extra 10 hours, but, can't do it because my kid's got a softball game, or it's my wife's anniversary, it's our anniversary, or it's my wife's birthday, or my husband's birthday, or whoever's birthday, and we're going to leave town. So when you make these things a priority, because these are the things that you can't replace, you can't do that one particular softball game again, you can't do that graduation again, you can't do that birthday again. These are the things that are true priority. They're the things that are going to add value in life. And when you are willing to put that over money, then you will get the money back. It will come back in some form. I mean, I had an example just yesterday. I was at the counter, and people know I do vehicle life, right? So, my budget's pretty sparse, but, I work with it. And, I was in the mini mart. I was grabbing something to eat because I was going to sit down and work, and just getting a small salad there, and I was going to sit down and work for a while. And this person ahead of me, and they had a coffee. That's all they had, was like a coffee, and they opened up their wallet. They didn't have the money there. The person was dressed well. He was completely humiliated that he didn't have the money. He's like, well, let me go check my car, this or that. And I'm like, just put it on my bill. Like, I knew the girl that was cashiering, and I'm like, just put it on my bill, it's fine. And it was like, I don't know, $2.50 or something like that, whatever it was. And the person just looked at me absolutely floored. And why was that? Because I could see in that moment that the priority was, this person needed this. They were obviously tired. They could afford it. I don't think it was any kind of an issue of whether they could afford it or not. They were just embarrassed that they didn't have the money. I could tell it was a genuine mistake. They thought they had it. And they obviously needed that cup of coffee for whatever. I think they probably had a long drive. They were probably headed back to wherever, Massachusetts, New York, whatever, wherever they were from. And I'm like, just put it on my bill. And the person just looked at me floored, like, really? And it's like, yeah, because I was prioritizing what that person needed in that moment, that was not damaging to them or anybody else, and prioritizing that and saying, yeah, that money will come back to me. I've had many times where one way or another it came back. So the girl's like, well, I'm just going to stamp your card twice, and then, because I have one of those little cards, and they stamp it every time you get a salad or whatever, and then after you get 5, you get something free, and those sorts of things. But I've had times where I found money after doing things like that, and it was more money than what I spent. So I never worry about it. And it's like, when I can just do that givingly, never even thinking about it, it's an amazing thing. So when we get used to prioritizing what is truly important, these natural flows come up. These natural pieces arise in our life, and they're amazing, and they're beautiful to watch, and they stimulate our health. I mean, I was dragging on energy. After I did that, I had plenty of energy to do all the work that I needed to do that afternoon and that evening. So it's really it's really amazing to watch these processes. And again, you're not really going to miss out, because if we're prioritizing what's of true value, the money, the other things will be replenished. When we prioritize the other things, we wear our health down, and we wear ourselves down mentally and emotionally, because then we have to live with the burden of, I didn't make this event, I didn't do something that was important for my kid or my spouse or my partner or whoever. And that weighs us down more and more and more and more, and drains our energy out. And then again, we tend to get sick, and then it depletes our resources. When we're chasing resources, we have to be exerting huge amounts of energy to keep them going. When we're chasing things and not even chasing things, when we are embracing experiences of value, then the other things, all that we need will be taken care of. And I've been getting shown that so much over the last year in particular, of just rusting into that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful process. Now, another thing that's going to play into this is learning the difference between material status and fortune and true abundance. Well, that plays into everything that I was talking about, because when we place our well-being, our health, as a priority, when we make processing things a priority, when our self-care becomes a priority, we are standing in true abundance. We are always going to have enough and always have enough to share. Just like the example I just shared. I don't have a lot, but I have enough to cover that cup of coffee for somebody on that particular day when it was needed. And that was operating from my abundant self, never thinking twice about it, just do it because that's what was needed in the moment. And the girl behind the counter was so surprised and shocked. She's like, I wish more people did things like that. I wish more people were like you. I wish, her world needs more people like you, so it's like I kind of got that immediate payback, but that I also, I triggered something in other people that was incredible and beautiful and amazing. And those are the things, again, that you can't replace. When you operate from that abundant self and you let go of doing it because you're getting some credit or things like that, when we do things from material status, we are doing things out of coercion, out of manipulation, out of believing programs, and we're working from a program space. When we are doing things for fortune, we're chasing the material and not the divine. So when we're doing it, for fame, for recognition, for fortune, for those sorts of things, we are stepping out of the divine. We're not honoring value and worth and things like that. But when we operate from true abundance, then we open up other flows that helps us to see our value and worth, and it helps us to create value and worth in other people. And when we do that, that cycles back around to them connecting and us connecting with God and divine source, which is an incredible piece, right? When we have that energy flowing through us, we can do anything. And then that cascades around and that pulls us away from those material things, and it builds the strength, and again, it builds us to where we can create these amazing things in the world. Focusing on values instead of things keeps us in spirit and with God. That's what I was just talking about, and in command of our own life. So again, when we take the time for things of value, we are taking command of our own life. We're stepping out of the control. We're stepping out of the programs. And when we do this, our needs are going to be met. I'm not saying you need to suffer. I don't think everybody has to do vehicle life. I mean, that's part of what my life is right now. Sure, would I like things to be a little bit different in some ways? Yeah. But I'm embracing the experience because there's many incredible things that I'm getting out of the experience right now that are showing me things that I need to do even when I'm not in vehicle life. So this is a time for me to keep my eyes wide open on this. And the reality of it is our needs are met. Whatever our needs are, they are going to be met. And we can do that without selling out our soul. And that's a big thing, because a lot of times people feel like, I can't do it without selling out my soul. Well, that's not true. That's an illusion. That's a program. That's a lie. And that's the belief that, whether you want to say evil or whatever you want to say, wants you to believe, that's a program that's put out there, that you have to sell your soul for material things. You have to do this, because if you don't, you're a bad parent, you're a bad partner, you're a bad whatever, which is not the case. And that's where sometimes we have to stop and actually we have been living pretty incredibly. Actually, we have been, keeping the boat because we're trying to keep up with people, and now we need to look at more of our basic needs. We need to simplify some things out. So the key is we definitely don't want to sell our soul out. When we do that, what happens? If you do that, your body's going to get sick. Things are going to crash. Things are going to become very challenging. And again, you're going to go into that breakdown stage of things that are happening in there. We're selling out the heart, true abundance, and God flowing through us in this. So what we're focusing into, when we focus in on values, we're coming into that heart space. We're coming into what is true, what is real. We're finding our abundant self, which stops worrying about the money. It stops worrying about the material pieces so much. And that doesn't mean we act reckless and we don't take care of things. We still need to do that, obviously. But we step into a place where we can receive. We can receive. We don't have to chase things as much. We can receive. And that is part of that abundant state. And that is part of when God is flowing through us, it's naturally going to open up that abundance. When we have that divine source energy flowing through us, within us, it's going to open up the heart center. It's going to help us to connect with what is true. So again, kind of, if we come back to standing in that and feel that flow and take the time to honor that, in the process of looking at the magnificence of things around us, okay, we're going to come into that space, and that's going to open naturally. And when we focus on the basics, it does not make us deprived. A lot of people think, well, if I don't have this and I don't have that, I'm so deprived. And I hear people, and it's like, well, if I don't live in a certain neighborhood, if I don't, if I don't have certain things in my life, if I can't go to this, and this every week, if I can't go out to dinner 3 or 4 times a week, then I'm so deprived, if I have to fix my own meals. No, you're not deprived. You need to learn to find the gift in those other spaces. And sometimes those things are going to get shut down on us. We're going to go through the challenges because we're not appreciating the things that we have. Again, when we don't appreciate the things we have, we're lacking in our own self-care. We're lacking in, the care that needs to be handled. We're lacking in that embracing these different components and different aspects. I mean, vehicle life is not an easy life by any means. You don't get a lot of rest. You don't go to sleep when you want to do things. You don't do a lot of things when you want to do things. You're at the mercy of the weather. If it's hot and humid outside, you may not always be able to find a place that's shaded or whatever else to be in, and it's not always going to be comfortable. But when you learn how to work with it, you realize, like, I never feel deprived. I have very, very few things in my life. I, am in this situation. This is how my life is lived. And I never feel deprived with it. Would it be nice to have some other things? Would other things make it a little bit easier on me? Absolutely it would. But I am definitely not deprived. And I have everything that I need. I have food. I have places that I can park and lay down and get some rest, even if it's not a lot of rest some days. There is no deprivation there. And this is an interesting piece because we base deprivation on material possessions, on certain lifestyles, on the image that has been put into our mind of what a reasonable lifestyle is. Well, that is variable and different for each person. And honestly, just because you have a lot of things, a big fancy house, a great neighborhood to be in, or these types of things, that doesn't make you abundant and fulfilled and happy and joyful and healthy by any means. So when we start to re-look at that concept of deprivation, of understanding things, it really changes. It changes the picture a lot. And when we start to realize, no, I'm actually not deprived. I may not have everything that I would like. I may not have everything that would make life easier, but I am not deprived by any means. And I think that this is very important for us to consider. And this is about, when we look at this deprivation piece, because it plays into our health, it plays into our ability to embrace the transitions that we're in. It plays into this self-care. It comes back to the balancing piece. And when we're talking about deprivation, it's about balancing needs and wants. So a lot of times when people say that they're deprived, it's because they don't have what they want. It's not because they don't have what they need. It's because they don't have what they want. And there's a very big difference between needs and wants. Okay? And a lot of times our wants are going to be not available to us. Okay, we're not being deprived, but they may not be available to us because it pulls us into thinking about the materialism. It pulls us into thinking about the material things instead of staying focused on what is a true priority, what is of true value. And the money will come when we're focused on things of true value. The other things will be taken care of when we focus on things of true value. And again, you are not better because you've got a bigger house, a bigger piece of property, this or that. That's great. You wanna start your little eco village or whatever on it. That's fine. You know what? That's great. Fulfill your dreams, but it doesn't make you better than other people, and it doesn't mean that you have to have that to be abundant, because a true abundance, remember, is not dependent on the amount of possessions you have, or how much money you have in your bank account, or what status you're carrying, or what neighborhood you're living in. Okay, those are completely different things. And so being able to balance the needs and the wants. And so when we do that, I might say, okay, look, I can't go afford to eat out and spend, $30 on a meal. Even once a week, even once a month, I don't do that. But you know what? I could go to this other place and I can still eat out, but maybe I eat out someplace that only costs me $12 and not $30. Or I can go to the market and I can grab an apple and I can grab some cheese and I can, grab, something like that, and I can go create a picnic. And I can do some amazing things that will fulfill some of my wants. And the only reason we have a lot of the wants that we have is because we believe we're deprived of something. So if we take a look at what we really feel like we're missing, needing, wanting in there, we'll come back to, we can eventually deduce it down to something that costs nothing, actually. Because whatever we're wanting is trying to fulfill something that is maybe perhaps a true need, right? So people who want to have an extravagant lifestyle, for example, what is the true need behind that? It's probably needing to be recognized, acknowledged as a person, acknowledged for the value that they're carrying in the world, that type of thing. So there's always, maybe a genuine need that we need to look at, and we need to take the time to process that. We need to take the time to figure out what that is. What is the thing of true value and true priority that we feel is lacking or missing, and then fulfill that void. And when we fulfill that void, we won't need what we're wanting. And we won't want what we're wanting. So it's an interesting thing. So I encourage you to take a look at, is this a need or is this a want? I need a certain amount of water in my body every day. I need a little bit of food in my body every day, and it needs to be nutritious, right? But, my want is to go have that $30 or $50 meal maybe in the nice restaurant or something like that. That would be a want, not a need, okay? Because there's many ways to fulfill the needs of putting food in my body or nourishment. And then I have to look at it and say, well, what is this want? If I want, whatever it is, I don't know, certain things. Well, what is the actual need? If you have cravings, right? Like sugar cravings, well, the actual need might be rest, not the sugar. Those sorts of things. So getting down to that need becomes very, very important in there. All right. Another thing that's going to play into self-care is to become more inspired and find ways to play and have fun. So again, this doesn't have to require any money to do. we just need time to be us, really, is what this is coming down to. To play, when we have fun, we're just being who we are. We're just being that in an uninhibited, appropriate way that just lets us do us without being judged for it, without being criticized for it, just for the sake of fun and play. And fun and play, as we know, that stimulates different hormones in our body, which are going to help us out and stimulate healing processes in the body. It gives us the mental breaks, the emotional breaks, and we can actually start to process things. Our thoughts, things that are blocked for us, creative blocks, can become unblocked in the process of fun and play. Because we actually step into spirit when we're in fun and play. We actually, again, connect with that God, divine source energy that is part of being in that space. So when we opt to be in that space, then we open up for that again to flow through whatever we're doing, to flow through our life in general. So taking a look at that is really incredible. So I always encourage people, take that time, take that break, take that half day off and go play, go have some fun. And I do that, even though I don't have a lot. Again, I'm getting ready to go to an event. I never thought I would. I think I've known some of these people, this event that I'm going to tomorrow. I think I've known some of these people for a while or connected with them in passing or different things, but I've never actually gone to anything. And they're having an annual event tomorrow and they're having a free day. It's a 3-day event and I can only attend the 1 day anyways, but I'm going on the free day. And so that balances out, right, my gas cost to get there because it's about a 3-hour drive for me to go there. But I'm going to get to connect with these people and have some fun. I'm going to do some fun. Or tonight, I'm headed off 20 miles from here. One of the cities is doing concerts every Thursday nights. And so I am going there to just listen to some music and chill and have fun and see people have fun. Last week when I went, there was a lady, she just got up and danced. And she was the only one dancing, but nobody cared. And she was having fun. And I was just tuning into her fun, which was fun for me. So these things are reminding us that a lot of what we really need and a lot of what is really going to generate our well-being doesn't actually cost anything, or it can cost very minimally. But bringing us back again in that play and that fun, that is about being who we are. That's taking time to just uninhibitedly be in the moment and do something without any pressure, without any judgment, without any timelines, without any structure to it. And why is it fun? It's fun because spirit moves through us when we do it. And it makes us laugh and it puts a smile on our face and it opens up our heart. So it's a very powerful piece in that. Again, and I mentioned this at the very beginning of the video, but divinity resides in our balance points. So when we look at this, and of course, you've got the non-duality theories, and you've got all these different theories out there. And as I've said before, you're never going to stop having the polarities because the polarities are not always about competition. They're really about balancing each other, everything in balance, like the sun balances the moon and vice versa, and the seasons all balance each other out to keep a harmony and a balance going. So one might take a priority at a certain time and then it rests and it lets the others have their spotlight for a while and so on. And so when we are finding these balancing points, what we're doing is we're actually embracing the value of polarities, but we're residing in the balance. In other words, we can see the value and we can see the worth of each, right? We can see the value of having summer and having some heat, and we can see the value of a good snowfall, not just because it brings business to the area because we're a ski area, but because it waters the land. It gives the land the water that it needs to survive. It fills our creeks up. It fills, our springs up so that we can have water to drink, and it nourishes the plants, and the plants need that to survive, and all these things. The plants need sun to survive, but they need to also have that break and that coolness that comes with the evening time frames. And, it needs the sunny days and it needs the cloudy days. And, all of that ends up creating these balancing points in there. And so when we can value the priorities, they will not, the different, the polarities, excuse me, when we can value these different polarities, what we're doing is we're keeping them out of the super extremes to an extent, and we're allowing them, again, to honor the component of the divine or God that they are here to be. And we're recognizing God within them. So we embrace the value of them. So in summertime, I'm going to be outside embracing the joy of being able to get outside. In wintertime, I'm going to enjoy being inside snuggled up, in my winter clothes and my hot tea or whatever it is that I have to drink, and, that medicinal healing energy, or, the healthy hot cocoa or whatever it is, and I'm going to enjoy that winter season and being more in the hibernation. Each thing has its value. And as we get into that value, and we embrace the beauty that it has to offer, then, we can actually see and start to balance it. So it's really about cherishing that. It's like cherishing the person that has qualities that you don't have. If you're not a very organized person, you can really appreciate and value the person who is very organized, because that's a skill you don't have. If you are an introvert, you can appreciate the person who is very extroverted because they have skills that you don't have. And when you can appreciate the value that they bring in the world, then you create that balancing point. And this is kind of like, mixing sweet and salty. And actually, they go hand in hand. Why? Because if you look at it on a biological level, a lot of times when we're craving sweetness, we actually need something salty in our body. We actually may be running low on the sodium scale a little bit. Now that doesn't mean you need to go pour a bunch of salt in. I'm not suggesting that. You might want some sea salt or something like that as opposed to table salt, whatever. But you're balancing these profiles, and so they kind of go hand in hand, and they balance each other out, and again they create that harmony in there. Also in this process, and we get these, part of our self-care is to really reconnect to our own value and worth. Again, big in August 2024. The more we can connect with that, the more that we will be able to balance things. When we realize that, when you realize that you have value and you have worth in this world, then you will tend not to do the extremes. You will tend not to do the overworking. You will tend not to let people take advantage of you, things like that. The more you know your value and the worth, the less you deal with some of those things, because you start to realize, no, I'm worth having an actual day off in the week. I am worth this. And why am I worth that? It's because I need to restore myself. I hold value in this world. I contribute valuable things in this world. And if I don't take that time to know my value and worth, I won't be restoring that. I won't be building up my reserves. I won't be keeping myself in a space to be able to follow through on my value and worth in the world. So when we know our value and worth, that also comes back to, we don't have to chase things. We don't go chasing people. We don't go chasing things. We can let them come to us. It's like the person who's confident, right? They don't have to go out and seek attention, because they know they can get whatever attention they need because of that confidence that they carry. And it all kind of goes hand in hand with that. In there. So if we take that time regularly, we need those breaks. That's part of those breaks. Part of the transition period is to, again, reconnect. What is the value and worth? What is the essence of divine that we are carrying and here to fulfill or to present to the world? And that is where our value and our worth resides, and we all have it. We all have gifts. We all have talents. Sometimes we overlook them because we take them for granted. Because they're so easy for us that we don't even think about them. But, taking that time to tune into that will also help, again, restore us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually in there. And then hardships. Sometimes when we're without money, when our physical drops off, when we're in these struggles and we think, man, I just got kicked out of this space, this was just flowing well, and now I'm rejected from here, and, we go into those victim spirals, right, and we wanted to stop and realize, well, these hardships, these challenges that I'm in, vehicle life, for example, right, they are an opportunity. It's not that they're there trying to destroy me. It's not that they're there trying to make my life miserable. They're giving me opportunities to see things, to do things that I wouldn't do. If I had a nice, comfy space to be in, right, maybe I'd be overworking. Maybe I wouldn't be getting out and enjoying the concerts in the park. Maybe I wouldn't be looking for certain things to do so that I don't have to be in the heat all the time. And these are opportunities also to make changes. Our hardships are showing that. So like in my life, what is it showing me? Being in vehicle life is showing me, look, you need to stop and take a break in the middle of the day, because when you do this, you can function better. You can actually get more done. You're actually equally as productive or more productive when you do this. You need this restoration point in the day. You need to be doing these certain things for your body. You have to be out walking in the woods. I come here and walk a lot here. There's great flat walkways here. It's amazing. And I do that, on a very regular basis, probably 3-4 times a week easily, that I walk here. And then I'm at the gym other times. It's showing me the opportunities that I need to be embracing. And that's what the hardships do for us. They're opportunities to make changes, and not just changes, that are meaningless, but changes that are moving us from materialism mindsets, programmed mindsets, overworking, unhealthy habits, to the soul's path, to the soul's way, to God's will, to healthy lifestyles. And that comes with this balance piece. And finally, again, it comes back to take the time to see the magnificence in daily things and appreciate them. Take nothing for granted. Look, we live in crazy times in this world, and there's no denying that. I mean, they're beautiful times as well. They're offering us incredible opportunities as well. But if we don't stop and appreciate the things that we have and the people in our life, and we just take for granted, like I said at the beginning, if we just take for granted we're going to roll over and that spouse or that partner is going to be next to us in the day, if I just take for granted that, every day I can come down here and I can be in this space and I can be in this environment and I can do this and I can do that, you know what, it's going to get taken from you. That is the way of things working. What we are taking for granted, we're not appreciating. What we don't appreciate will be removed from our life. And so we need to learn to appreciate things. The most simple, the most basic, the most daily things. And that is food. Every day I wake up and I give my gratitude for the day, and I give my gratitude that I have food, that I have a vehicle to work with, that I have the things that I have. And I stand in that gratitude and I appreciate them. And I don't take any of them for granted. My interactions, even though they might seem very mundane and casual or whatever, don't take them for granted. Don't take your friendships there for granted. We live in times, and we see it over and over again. If you catch any piece of the news, which I don't like to spend a lot of time in it, but I do feel like I want to be aware of things that are happening in the world, you realize that life can change like that. And it doesn't matter how you're living your life, it can change like that. And don't take it for granted. Never miss an opportunity, to say, hey, I love you. That was one of the things my biological parents growing up did. And it's always stuck in this human brain here. There wasn't a day that went by that they didn't tell each other that they loved each other. They never took each other for granted. My father said to my mother every single day, at the start of the day and the end of the day when he got home, I love you. That is small, And it is one of the most powerful things there is. And he meant it with every fiber of his being. He never took the relationship for granted. And they were married for over 50 years. Over 55 years, I think, actually. Don't take anything for granted. It's too easy to wallow in the victim spaces. Oh, this is all I've got, blah, 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 blah. Okay? BS. Appreciate it. The more you appreciate, the more you will draw in things to appreciate. And the more you will draw in things of value. So, I know this has been longer than my normal videos. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Don't forget, I have the Code Journey coming out for 2025. It's coming out August 17th. Check it out. My website, compassioncodes.com. Go to the Goods tab. Click on the Code Journey. You'll see it going up there soon. I don't have the links up, obviously, yet. I can't get them up until the 17th. But that will be coming. And I'm very excited to get that release happening here in just a couple of weeks. And that will be available. And you can check out all of these insights, stay on top of things. And they're just great ways of learning to live in life. Really, it's not really a predictive thing, even though it's got a day-by-day, here's occurrence type of aspect. It really is this guideline for living well, for being healthy, for being with God, with divine presence in your daily life, and working from that foresight and working in partnership there with God and divine source, so that you can get everything out of life that you're here to get, and that you can enjoy this life and you can appreciate it, and you can break the programming that this earthly world tends to come with, and get back into that true connection, and to live from here. It's an amazing world, but we got to take the time to see it. And it's starting to rain, which we have no rain in the forecast, but it's raining anyways. So I'm going to go, everybody. Take care. Have a great month. And I will connect with you next month. And who knows where I will be, because I know that August for me personally is going to be a huge adventure. I have no idea exactly what is coming. Other than big trucks going down the road early in the morning. I have no idea what's actually coming my way. I just know that I'm in for some kind of big transition or shift or something that I'm going to have to be incredibly alert and aware for. So who knows where it's going to lead me, but I'm ready to embrace it. I'm ready to embrace whatever value it has, and go from there. So take care, and I will see you next month.